Everybody like, hey, are you ready to go? Ready to go? Everybody like, hey.
Alright, what is up y'all? Soul here and welcome back to my story mode. Now before we get started here, I want to make something very clear. This video is not me trying to fix the remakes. In my previous video regarding Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I asked you guys how you would fix the remakes. Right now we're getting a sense of what you guys would do to fix up the remakes, and I'm kinda just replying to those ideas. So apologies, but for those of you who are coming in here expecting me to absolutely dog on the game, that's not what we're here for. We're here to watch you guys dog on the game and just see how I feel about it. While I personally am very much looking forward to the remakes or remasters, whatever you want to call them, I can definitely acknowledge the fact that there's a lot of people that are unhappy with what we got. So let's talk about it. I compiled all of your guys' responses to my question, and we're gonna break them all down in this video right here. Before we get into everything though, let's go ahead and acknowledge the fact that while I was going through these replies, a majority of them are just bashing on the art style. And you know what, I more so just find that funny because there's definitely other problems that should be acknowledged, but the art style is just, y'all need to just shoot that. Y'all want to just stab that in the throat, huh? I just find that really funny. So I am gonna go ahead and apologize for all the questions that I'm sure I skipped because a lot of them were very repetitive, even though some were a little bit more detailed and fleshed out. It's very obvious that we're talking about the same exact situation. So I do apologize, but to keep the video fresh, I had to go ahead and skip all the repetitive questions, so that's simply what just had to happen. Another thing, since we have a lot of time before these remakes actually come out, I'm gonna ask this a couple times throughout the year for opinions and stuff like that, but for now, content-wise, what exactly would you guys like to see me do with that game? I'm down for whatever, but would y'all like to see a fun episode to episode kind of playthrough, a straight up live stream playthrough for the first go at it? And if we do either of those things, would y'all like to see like a challenge run, like some kind of Nuzlocke, maybe like a soul link with somebody, maybe some kind of special Nuzlocke? A Shinx only run? Let me know. I'm down for whatever. Just keep me posted on what y'all want to see regarding these games. So with that just about covers everything that I wanted to say, so let's get into what you guys wanted to say. Let's break down all these questions. I asked, you answered. Let's run through them. Arbitoriku or Arbitoriku says, art style, for real. So I decided to start with this one because A, this was the most liked comment, and B, this is the most common problem, so I thought we should go ahead and tackle this one right off the bat. If you've seen my good-bad comparison video regarding Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, you guys already know for the fact that I am more than okay with the art style choice. I'm good with the fact that they decided to attempt to stay faithful and keep it top down while rebuilding the world that we already know in this new engine. However, I will not ignore the fact that there could definitely be some touch-ups here and there to at least make it a little more bearable for more people. Most problems seem to stem from the overworld models of the characters themselves. While I think they're pretty cute, when I do get a good look at them, I have to say their bodies overall can be a tad awkward when you look too hard. It's like they wanted to go on a weird half and half between chibi and something else. I'm not even sure what that other thing is, but honestly, if you're going for the chibi style to really fit this overworld, go for the chibi style entirely. 100% that. Don't half-ass it. I think one of my personal biggest problems with the little chibi characters themselves is their fingers. Why do they don't need fingers? That's so creepy. The way they kind of like, they don't have any necks or anything, so it's a little awkward for their little stubs that have fingers. Just make them stubs. They're so tiny, we're not gonna see them half the time anyway. It would be super cute if they were just stubs. They don't need fingers. Now, I did mention this in the other video, but probably the only other thing that I could think of that I might have an issue with is the in-battle models. I don't mind that they get full models or anything, that's not the problem. It's just the fact that they look way too stiff in those trailers. I've seen a lot of people everywhere comparing those models to the in-game models for Let's Go, and I have to admit, the Let's Go models do look a little bit more expressive, and by a little bit, I mean a crap ton. I can't even lie to you. Overall though, that is my primary issue. If there's anything that I want fixed in these next couple months, it's definitely the expressions and the textures when it comes to the in-battle models for the trainers. Other than that though, when it comes to the actual art style, the cities, the buildings, the routes and everything like that, I honestly don't have much of a problem at all. It's literally everything that we had in the previous games upscaled in 3D, and I personally think it worked very well. Just seeing Lake Verity and what they did with that water makes me so excited to see what they do with the rest of these towns and cities when I play through for the first time on my big screen. I'm ecstatic for it. Whatever the case may be, I know that a lot of you are definitely not on board with this art style, and that's totally fine. If you truly are under the belief that this art style is absolutely disgusting and atrocious, I'm not gonna fight you on it, man. There are simply things that are just not pleasing to every single person's eye, and that's alright. Moving right along here, Blossoming Fate says, remove Shinx. How is Cynthia supposed to be a challenge? I just roll up with 6 Shinx and win by default. My boy, because of you right now, I'm almost tempted to do a Shinx only run to prove that he's our Lord and Savior for a reason. I'm glad that you've recognized his power. 6 of them on a battlefield? Jesus Christ, bro, you're giving me chills right now. Anyway, moving along here, Nova Fusion says, I hope they add in mythical events. In the trailer, there was a blonde woman in Floroma that wasn't in Diamond and Pearl, and she was a Platinum specific NPC that gives you the Gracidia flower. None of the 4th gen mythicals are in 8th gen, and Legends Arceus should allow the transfer of Arceus when you catch him. Otherwise, he should have an event as well. First off, I must have completely missed that because I do not remember that NPC whatsoever. I must have never talked to her, because I don't remember actually getting the Gracidia flower the legal way. But as far as events and things like that, you're absolutely right. They have absolutely no reason to withhold any of the events from us at this point. A revised version of the originals with online capabilities means that we should eventually be getting access to all of the 4th gen mythicals that they did not give us for whatever reason in 8th gen. Now, I'm not expecting these events right off the bat. To keep us playing more consistently, I'm expecting them more so to hand us these events through updates down the line. Which to me is perfectly fine. I want to stay consistently invested in the game. Simply put, giving us actual legal access to the mythicals that they've been locking up for years now, that right there is definitely something that's going to keep me coming back. I need my Darkrai, damn it. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Nova. They cannot tease us with something like that and then give us absolutely nothing. Not 100% sure as to how they're going to go about giving us Arceus, but it's definitely going to involve some kind of event that requires you to have Pokemon Legends. So, that really I'm not worried about. Next up, the random nobody says, art style, as well as make sure there's more Platinum related things and other content without the need of it being DLC. Kind of playing into what I just said, I do feel like there's going to be some form of free events within the game itself, and Platinum kind of seems to be littered here and there as far as content, so I'm not really necessarily worried about that. However, when it comes to DLC though, because they can do it, I'm more than certain that they're going to withhold something big for us, unfortunately. Now, it's one thing if it's actually brand new content. That would be surprising, and I'd be okay with paying for it depending on what it is and how much it comes with. On the other hand though, I truly do hope they aren't withholding content that we've already had in the previous games. They have to know what kind of backlash that would cause if they made that DLC. We better not be paying half the price of the game to get the Gracidia Flower event with Shaman and the Darkrai event. Because if they do that, I have to believe that they know that people are going to be rolling up with pitchforks and literal torches in hand, ready to burn Game Freak HQ down to the ground, even though they aren't even the ones developing the game. But they will still be pissed. Long story short, we're paying full price for the remakes, so the least that they could do is hand over things that we already had access to, or at least should have had access to in the original games. Alrighty, right. Swizzlestick says, they should add more expressions to the characters, clean up some of the textures, and hopefully keep the experience share in difficulty. They should also add Platinum content like the Battle Frontier, Distortion World, and the upgraded Resort. Referring to the in-battle models like I said earlier, I definitely agree, they look a little too stiff to me. Hell, even when the trainer first slides in when you run into a wild Pokemon before throwing a Pokeball out, they look completely motionless. I know that they're trying to keep it close, but they don't need to keep it that damn close. As far as the experience share goes, while I highly doubt it, I would also vastly prefer if they kept it like the original. But again, they're introducing a lot of new players into 4th gen for the first time, meaning that they're most likely gonna give us things that they're expecting. meaning that even if this game is supposed to be super faithful, I feel like the one thing that they're definitely going to change is making it so that the experience share goes to everybody on the team. Aside from that though, while leveling up your Pokemon does play a huge role in the difficulty, I think the biggest part of that is the level scaling of the trainers. If there's one thing that doesn't really need to be all that messed with, I think that the trainers should be more than fine as they are. I mean, unless you plan to balance it out a little bit and justify giving us easier training by giving these trainers higher level Pokemon or more Pokemon on their team, I think we'd be okay with that, but something tells me that's not something that we're going to be getting, so overall, if anything, just leave the trainers alone. Now, as far as the Battle Frontier goes, I think that's the closest we're going to get to offline competitive practice, so I feel like they're going to leave that one alone or maybe build upon it, so I'm not really worried about that one. Taking that away would be really unfair to the people that like to play offline and practice their own skills against CPUs and things like that. It also serves as great aftergame, so I honestly can't see them removing the Battle Frontier. Now, the Distortion world is kind of a different ballgame. We do need to consider the fact that these are Diamond and Pearl remakes, so Giratina doesn't really have a place in this story as we know it now. And with no ties to Giratina, there's really no reason for us to visit the Distortion world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't get Giratina. Again, since these are Diamond and Pearl remakes, we're more than likely to get everything from those original games, which includes the Spring Path event after you get the National Dex. So put simply, we'll definitely most likely be able to obtain Giratina in his altered form after traversing Spring Path. I simply don't expect to have access to the Distortion world anytime soon, if at all, upon release, since that's strictly a Platinum thing. However though, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's impossible because we could definitely get that as an addition through updates. So, I can't count it out just yet, I guess. And as far as the resorts go, I actually had to look that one up because I truly, honest to God, don't remember even visiting those. I might have visited them once when I was younger, but to be honest with you, I was probably way too invested in the root music because that is the one thing I remember in that area. So when you say upgraded resort, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean like battling more trainers and stuff like that? Because if so, I'm down for that. I would love to have a little challenge after game thing going on in the resort over here. Let me know exactly what you're talking about. And while you're doing that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next fix-up. Joshima says, the titles. They don't really look like remake titles. If there is one thing that all of us collectively agree on, it is probably that right there. The more I think about the actual titles of the remake, the more dumb they get to me. I keep asking myself every time I look at those titles, how are the official remake titles more lame than fan-made titles from over a decade ago now? I'll never truly understand why they decided to actually refer to the jewels instead of the Pokemon on the covers. And you know what? I'll even go ahead and admit it. While these titles aren't really all that complicated, I have forgotten the titles a multitude of times over a multitude of conversations. And don't even get me started on the amount of retakes that I had to do when recording my other video talking about these games. Like 6 times in the middle of recording, I had to actually stop and go look up the titles again because they're so forgettable. Long story short, as excited as I am for these games, I will outwardly admit that I hate these titles. That is the one thing I will say that I definitely hate about these. Remember when I said at the beginning of the video that this was not going to be me bashing on the game? I lied a little bit. I'm glad we've acknowledged that. Let's go ahead and move on. ADHD Weirdo, I absolutely feel you on that, big dog, says, Barry's hair and the main character's outfits. His hair looks better in Masters, a mobile game, and I would like for the characters to have platinum outfits considering that they're in the cold region of Sinnoh. They should be dressing a lot warmer. Okay, well, starting with Barry, his hair does look oddly plastic, doesn't it? Now, while I don't really mind it all that much, it could definitely be fixed by the times the games get here. Now, in the overworld, I don't really care as much, but his battle model, that's where some touch-ups need to be made for me. In the trailer, when you see him throwing the Pokeball, you can see that his hair moves when it clearly should not. Or at the very least, it definitely looks like it shouldn't, considering the fact that he probably has the most anime hair next to Cynthia. In my personal opinion, y'all need to pick a side. Either make it look like it should move and make it move, or don't make it look like it should move and don't make it move. You can't have both. You greedy asses. Now, as far as the outfits go, they gave them new outfits in Platinum because they kinda actually made the region look a lot colder. Right from the get-go, there was actually snow everywhere. Now, just because Sinnoh is technically the coldest region, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be cold all the time. Despite what they haven't given us since 5th gen, we do have to acknowledge that there are different seasons. So yes, while in Platinum it's just about winter year-round, that may not necessarily be the case for Diamond and Pearl, unless you've got something against that. But so far, that's how I've justified it for myself. When it comes to remakes in this series, rarely has there been a time where they actually actively changed the outfits. It's pretty much the exact same situation that we had with 2nd gen and 3rd gen remakes. They were just upscaled models of what we had from the past. So while I could see where you're coming from, personally I'm more than okay with what we got for the outfits. Next along is Bandits161 saying, dude, what if they have your Pokemon in the overworld as chibis? Now this is something that I've definitely thought about a lot. Even in my other video, I literally said, why do we still not have Pokemon following us in the overworld? We haven't had it good like that since Let's Go. Why was Let's Go the last thing to have that? In this style, I fully believe that seeing those Pokemon in the overworld would be the cutest thing. And I'm talking the legendaries too. Imagine the big ass Dialga and Palkia following you around in the overworld. That would look awesome in that style. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible or anything like that, but again, these are remakes, so that's not really something that I expect to happen. But it would definitely be nice. And if it makes you feel any better, which it probably won't, at the very least, there's a good chance that Amity Square will be making a return. So, you know, it's not much, but it's something. Next up, Soalai says, I wanted an art style more like Sword and Shield or Let's Go, but if we're working with the chibi style, then the lighting and colors need some major work. The shots we got were either eye-burningly bright, like the battles, or way too dark, like showing the underground. First off, I need to see what kind of monitor you're rocking, homie. I need to see some. Now at first glance, I didn't have an issue with the lighting, but then again, that might be because I was screaming so much that I just didn't even try to process the lighting differences. But when looking back on the trailer, shifting from the overworld into battle does make it wildly brighter. I will give you that one. There's got to be a little bit more balance in that department because otherwise we're going to be blinking furiously every time we go back and forth between battle and overworld, and we're going to get sick of that real fast. Now when it comes to the underground lighting, I didn't really see the dilemma. It is significantly darker than what it was, true enough, but it would be a hell of a lot more awkward if they kept it as bright as they did in the originals. To give it a more realistic feel, they factored in a more realistic style of lighting, and honestly, I think it works. So when it comes to that front, I'm not really sure there's much that can be done there. Realistically, we have to just accept the fact that if we're going to be spending hours in the underground, we're most likely going to go up and it's probably going to be dark anyway. So that's just something that we're probably going to end up getting used to. I think it's going to be a lot of fun doing two different types of crying. One, because I found a fossil finally, because my luck is atrocious, and then coming back up and getting my eyeballs burned out. It's a win-win. Next up is Dead Theories, who says, battle backgrounds, because they look low res. Now, because of the general power of the Switch, I never really expect anything super high res or anything like that. However, some touch-ups in the detail department of any rocks and any grass that we see couldn't hurt. Also, this next part may simply be because I'm so used to 8th gen now, but honestly, I feel that they feel more cramped than anything. Honestly, we're surrounded by complete trees and rocks and mountains and stuff like that, so I feel like we're just kind of crammed into this little battlefield, and in caves it's even worse. Legit out here activating my claustrophobia. Either way, whatever the case may be, as long as they do a little bit of touch-ups here and there and maybe widen it out just a little bit, I'm not asking for much, but if they could do that, I think we'd be okay. And finally, Manor Malik, you almost got me with that name, bro, says, Megas, new Pokemon, post-game, difficulty options, and changes to the story. So for starters, I'd like to make a separate video talking about Megas because that's a whole discussion on its own. But as for my general opinions, I think I'd be okay with Megas. Of all the gimmicks that we've gotten so far, Megas were definitely the better of the three and could fit into most situations without changing too much. The likelihood of them showing up in these remakes are insanely high simply because we're in a new age of Pokemon, so even as remakes, it simply wouldn't be a very hard thing to implement if they truly wanted to. And you know what? New Megas wouldn't be that much of a stretch either. Considering that we're back in Sinnoh, it would make a lot more sense if we got introduced to certain Megas just like we did in Oraz. Sit there, lie to me, and tell me that you don't want Mega Luxray. Tell me that he doesn't deserve a Mega. Or Staraptor at least. Lie to me. I dare you, bro. Now, new Pokemon, I can definitely say with confidence, are not happening. I can say that one with certainty. We don't really have a single clue as to what post-game will contain, but they will definitely have to add something to keep us occupied until Legends, so I have faith that it'll be at least mildly sufficient. As much as most of us would love to throw in a difficulty mode, that's just something that they actively refuse to do at this point, and it'd be quite odd to start with remakes over a new generation. And finally, overall, I think that a majority of us would be more than pleased to actually have a tad more story implemented at this point, considering we know 4th gen through and through. So I agree, I think it would be nice to have a little tidbit more story added at this point in time. And so that just about covers everybody that didn't simply repeat, give us a new art style, remake the textures and art style. I know, guys, I know. For the most part though, I think that a lot of these ideas are definitely things that could be fixed, tuned up, and added to the remakes by the time they come around, probably at the end of the year during the holiday season near like November. Every day they're working on this game, so we do have actually a lot of time before we get our hands on them, so we don't know what's to come just yet. So despite what the title says, it is actually a little too soon to say what to fix, despite not even knowing what's necessarily still broken yet. As far as we know, everything that we saw in those trailers could be completely outdated by now. Keep in mind, it did say that the game footage is not final. We always have to look at that and keep that in mind. What the finished product is gonna look like? You got me, sonny. I couldn't tell you. But the long and short of it is, despite everything that we did destroy going into this video, I still gotta say, I'm still super excited. I'm very much looking forward to the remakes and playing through them with everybody again. So anyway, that just about does it for me. The next video is most likely going to be something covering Pokemon Legends, and I have a really fun idea for that one, so stick around if you want to see that one. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to Pokemon Legends Arceus, so I think you're going to want to see that next video. So on that note, before I skedaddle on out of here, I'm going to ask you to do me the kindest favor of dropping a like, a comment, and hitting that subscribe button for more content down the line leading up to the big releases of the remake and the new game coming out next year in 2022, because we're going to be talking a lot about that stuff and digging in deep. So make sure you stick around, because we're going to have a lot of fun on this channel talking about them and then eventually playing them when they're finally in our hands. So I actually am going to go ahead and skedaddle on out this time. Once again, do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.